In Star Trek, you often hear the Federation starship captain call for impulse power. But what is impulse power, and how does it work? Impulse power in Star Trek consists of sublight speed engines. They use a controlled fusion propulsion system operating at the edge of relativistic physics. Impulse engines can be one of the most dangerous systems on a Federation starship that require both science fact and science fiction solutions. Impulse engines are powered by fusion reactors, typically deuterium-based, where hydrogen isotopes are fused to release enormous amounts of energy. That energy is routed through a propulsion system that accelerates high-energy plasma, producing forward motion. That sounds like a standard fusion rocket, but Starfleet takes it much further. Federation starships routinely reach up to 25% the speed of light, although in emergencies, they can reach over 90% if needed. At those speeds, relativity kicks in hard and time dilation begins to matter. Relativistic mass increases significantly, and the kinetic energy of the ship becomes enormous. A Galaxy-class Star Trek starship like the Enterprise D, traveling at 10% the speed of light, would have a kinetic energy equivalent to about 500 million megatons of TNT, or roughly 5,000 times more powerful than the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. At 25% the speed of light, it becomes a planet-ending weapon. This is why Star Trek starships, along with every other spaceship in sci-fi, needs a healthy dose of science fiction to make it work. The impulse engines need to work directly with the starship's inertial dampeners and structural integrity field. Without these sci-fi systems, the crew would be crushed instantly during acceleration. If a starship spent 30 minutes accelerating to 20% the speed of light, the ship and crew would be subjected to over 200,000 Gs. Even modest acceleration to relativistic speeds would expose the ship to forces that would tear it apart. Sci-fi inertial dampeners don't just make the ride comfortable, they're the only thing preventing the crew from being pulverized and vaporized. To make impulse engines possible in Star Trek, there's a hidden layer of science fiction. Impulse engines are described as using driver coils. For the engines to push the starship forward using expelled plasma, they must interact with the sci-fi concept of subspace. This reduces the ship's effective inertial mass, which is the only reason these extreme kind of accelerations are remotely survivable. The ship is not accelerating its full mass through normal space. A large portion of that mass is shifted into subspace. Without it, the amount of energy needed to accelerate a Galaxy-class Federation starship to 20% the speed of light would require the total annihilation of about 92,000 kilograms of matter and antimatter, equal to roughly 14 years of the total energy use of the entire world. Then there's the radiation problem. At relativistic speeds, even microscopic dust becomes lethal. A grain of sand hitting a starship at 20% light speed would release energy equal to half a ton of TNT. This is why deflector shields are always active during impulse flight. They aren't just for combat, they're constantly clearing the path ahead of the ship, vaporizing and deflecting particles before impact. Heat is another major problem for Federation Starfleet impulse engines. Fusion reactors produce enormous amounts of energy, and the faster the ship goes, the more of it builds up inside the system. Starships rely on advanced cooling systems, including radiative panels, and even use Sci-Fi Subspace to get rid of most of that excess energy. Conventional cooling systems on their own wouldn't be enough to handle even 1% of the heat waste that's being produced. Without these systems, the starship would cook itself from the inside out. Starfleet also restricts sustained high impulse speeds to avoid time dilation effects. If a starship is pushed close to light speed for too long, the crew would experience a significant time shift compared to the outside universe. This creates massive time synchronization problems, tactical disadvantages, as well as mission drift. Imagine if each starship in the Federation was existing in its own time, away from the universal timeline. Impulse power in Star Trek is highly controlled and maintains a dangerous balance between fusion energy, relativistic physics, and science fiction. The laws of physics are effectively bypassed through concepts like subspace and inertial dampeners. But without them, the space exploration stories that Star Trek tells would never be possible.